So I used to love the concept of duality until I realized it doesn't actually exist. So let me blow your mind about what's really happening instead.
Hey, this is Francisca, and this is My Mid-Crisis Life, and today is Monday Mindset. So yesterday in Crisis Confessions, I was talking about my mental health and how it's quite low at the moment. I don't really have the energy to do things, and but I still want to show up here because consistency is really important. I was talking about that kind of juxtaposition between consistency and like this idea of like, I don't know, a lot of people coach and say, you've got consistency, you've got to show up for yourself, you've got to be consistent. But actually the consistency only really works with a level of fluidity. So really actually the only thing to be consistent about is consistent in your awareness of how to respond to your body, of how to respond to what you need in any one given moment, because the only thing that's really consistent is change. And it made me think about this idea of like duality, right? That there's so many things that have like a connection that appear to be oppositional, that actually work together, that need one another in order to be able to exist. So I looked up, let me find it. I looked up the definition of duality. Where is it? What does it say? So the condition or quality of having two distinct or opposing parts or elements that coexist within a single entity, highlighting the contrast or complementary characters of either. And I think about this idea of duality when you think about things like yin and yang, right? That these two things exist to complement one another. And I think about that idea of like consistency. You can't have consistency unless you have fluidity. But I also think about things like, courage. You can't have courage to do something unless you have the humility to know where you need to have that courage. You can't have a level of strength without vulnerability. So you can't be strong and you can't know where to be strong unless you're vulnerable enough to know where that comes from, right? I think about the fact that, you can't know how to go through something until you've been through that thing, right? You can't have love without being vulnerable. You can't have order without chaos. You can't have success without failure. You can't have knowledge without ignorance, because you don't know what knowledge you need unless you acknowledge your ignorance to something that you don't know something about, right? And I always really used to like this concept of duality, that there are these two things that appear to be opposing, that work together, that complement one another. And even though they're polarizing ideologies, that somehow they come together. But when I think about even this word of duality, right, these dueling aspects, these dueling ideologies, I think that there's still a level of combativeness about it, right? That even the word duel is like, it's a duel, right? This is what people used to get on their horses and fight. They used to go into duel. It was a battle. I think about, even if that duel is a spar, right? Even if it's not a real fight, even if you're not trying to kill the other person, even if it's just for pretend, even if it's just for practice, there's still this idea of battle. There's still this idea of combating one another. And I think that the more that I've thought about this idea of duality, the more that I've realized actually that it doesn't exist. That when you say something is in duality, that you are saying that these things are oppositional. And to say that something is oppositional is to measure one thing against the other in order to know that this is opposite to this. But I don't really think that it should be looked at in terms of like this polarization of a spectrum, that both of these things complement one another. That actually that it's more cyclical, that it's more like, without this thing, the other thing cannot exist. So therefore, they have as much merit as one another. They're not combating one another. They're not oppositional things that are complementary. They're the same thing. If you think about something like beauty and ugliness, people want beauty, right? Just like people want courage, just like people want knowledge, just like people want strength. And maybe don't want the vulnerability, don't want the ignorance, they don't want the I don't know, the humility that comes with courage. Just like people don't want to be ugly, right? Everyone wants the beauty. But the thing is that without the ugliness, there's nothing to measure the beauty by. Without the bad, there's nothing to measure the good upon. So these things have to exist in order that the other one exists. And I think the point of what I was trying to make in my video yesterday, that maybe I wasn't 100% succinct about, was that change is the only consistent thing. And that in order to find contentment, irrespective of where you're at, irrespective of whether you're at a point where you feel consistent or you feel that things are inconsistent, or whether you feel that you are in a place of courage and you have no fear, or whether you have to find the humility to know where to be courageous, that wherever you're at, it's never going to remain the same. You're never going to stay static in that place, and that each place needs to be honored and celebrated for the purpose that it has. And I know that at the moment, my body and my mind and my energy, they do not feel good. And there could be this desire, this push to be more consistent, to meditate more consistently, and to, I don't know, exercise more consistently, and to just, do better. But the truth of the matter is that to find contentment in this space is the only thing really that will allow it to change. And to know that it's going to change, and to not measure the merit and the value of any particular place, any particular thing, any particular feeling, any particular perspective, any particular challenge or I don't know, freedom, right, that you can be in, is the only thing really that allows us to move through these places with grace and with contentment. Yeah, I think that's it. Join me tomorrow. We're going to do a practice that's going to look at some of these things. So come back for Christmas tools if that's something that you think that you might be interested in. And for now, that's it.
So tell me, what opposing forces in your life are actually working together? Tomorrow's Chrysalis tools will help you practice honoring every part of your cycle. So subscribe for more mind-expanding philosophy.